James and Tom, welcome to THN's Road to Fright Fest. We are here to talk about He Kills at Night, which is playing as part of the first Blood Strand. I guess, the obvious first question is, how are you both feeling about, screening at Fright Fest and being selected? Because obviously the first Blood is this strand that sits within the wider programming, which is kind of highlighting, the best and brightest in new genre voices.
You want to start, Tom? As it's first time director for you as a narrative.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't be more proud that we've managed to land FrightFest as the premiere. James and I spoke before about, what would be the ideal premiere for the film, and obviously, being based in the UK, FrightFest was top of that list, really. And so it's kind of like a dream come true to some extent. And we'd love the festival, and we just wanted to try and do something that we could kind of showcase what you can do regardless of where you're based in the UK, for example, because we're up north and we have many friends who have kind of left to go work in London because there's just not the kind of jobs, and the British film industry is in a difficult position at the moment. So there was an aspect of like, do we think we can actually do this? And when we just thought, well, we're going to give it our best shot. And so to kind of land something like this and be in the first Blood Strand hopefully shows that it was definitely something well worth doing. So yeah, I couldn't be more pleased, really.
I'm super excited. I just love genre film festivals in general. I feel like there are people. I feel like a lot of genre film festivals are for the fans. It's like the antithesis of Cannes almost. It's very much. It's for the people. It's for the fans, and I just cannot wait to mingle and mix with all the other genre film fans and chat horror movies for the full festival, over a whiskey or a wine or a coffee. So yeah, I'm very excited.
They're the only three things James drinks.
I have water for the first hour of the day actually, but
Like you're gonna say you'd had water for the first time today.
uh,
Nice. And I guess, for those that haven't done their homework, how have you been pitching He Kills at Night to people?
Sort of, do you know, initially back before we would even got into production, we were describing it as a horror, and then at some point, I kind of thought, it's much more thriller than horror, and now it's kind of like, it's a Christmas thriller, which we all need more Christmas thrillers in our life. And I kind of describe it as it's a Christmas thriller with horror tendencies. It's got elements of hopefully the things that we love in those kind of films, and it's very much got a, and deliberately so, I should say. I'm going to caveat what I say here, but it's very much got a independent B movie feel to it, but the kind of B movie that James and I grew up watching when our dad would bring home whatever he could find from our local video store. And sometimes it would be absolutely incredible, other times it'd be the worst film you'd ever seen. And so we hopefully try to err on the side of this will be a great watch for people and it'll be really entertaining.
I think my reference points, I think with the kind of the B movie feel, I love film noirs from like the 1940s and the 1950s. So the two reference points from a film point of view were Ida Lupino's The Hitchhiker from the early 50s, which is very much a car movie, and a large chunk of this is set inside the car. And then Mario Bava's last film, which was Rabid Dogs, which is again set in a car for the majority of the film as well. So they were the kind of the two starting reference points, mixed in with a lot of kind of John Carpenter, who was my favorite director growing up. So I think kind of the car side of things that's very much the kind of the reference point. But then there's kind of little bits of slasher mixed within the film as well. So the opening, and then there's a couple of other moments from the film, and obviously growing up in the 90s, we're kind of the second wave of great American slashers, if you like, from Kevin Williams and Wes Craven with Scream, and I know we did last summer, H2O, etc. We were kind of raised on those films as well. So it's basically taking that kind of love for these B pictures, these film noirs, and kind of blending it with the kind of slasher subgenre as well.
It's a constant build of, sorry, just to kind of add to that, it was a constant build of the tension throughout the film. So one thing I'd said to James when I read the first script was I picture this like it's almost unfolds in real time, and the tension is constantly building to the point where we get to the end, and it's actually quite unbearable to even be with these characters now. Because we've been there the entire way. We feel like basically the third character within the bulk of the scene where there's the two main characters, and it was kind of drawing traits on, as James said, all our favorite filmmakers. So like John Carpenter, also some elements of David Fincher, and then Alfred Hitchcock with the classic suspense moments. And it was kind of throwing everything at films that we've both loved growing up and still love to this day as well. And so in that sense, it was actually really fun to make as well.
And obviously, you kind of mentioned, some of your inspirations and influences, but how did the idea first come together?
I was thinking, so we wanted to shoot something where as a screenwriter, I'm represented by the Screen Talent Agency. So a lot of my scripts go through them, but I wanted to write something that Tom and I could do together and produce ourselves as well. So I had to write something that I thought realistically the two of us could do together for a slightly lower budget. What's interesting is I had my son in 2022, so he's only 3 years old, and I've noticed my writing has gone slightly darker since having a child. It's like gone the opposite. I know John Carpenter famously says he wouldn't be able to do the young girl's death in Assault on Precinct 13 as he got older. I've kind of gone the other way. My films seem a little bit nastier. And I've found that it's almost a direct response to suddenly having to raise a young child to be the best human he can be in a really bad world at the moment, a really polarizing world. And genre films are very good at kind of bleeding that kind of anger and annoyance at the state of the world out. So not that it's making a political point or anything, but I think it's a little bit angrier because of that. So that was kind of the starting point. I was almost, without giving anything away, I wanted I wanted to do a film that it will make sense when you watch it actually, as to what I mean by that actually. But I can't really give any spoilers away. Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier that the film is set at Christmas. What do you think that the setting gives the story?
I absolutely love Christmas. My two favorite months of the year are December and October. So I love Christmas and I love Halloween. So seasonal horror, I look forward every year to watching Silent Night, Deadly Night, Krampus, Christmas Evil, Don't Up Until Christmas, etc. So I love Christmas horror and I love Christmas music as well. So we really wanted to really dial into the kind of the Christmas feel. We had like a Christmas score created for the film, and then I mean the snow, from a production value point of view, but also everything feels harder within the film. So Richard Galloway's character who plays Alan, that bit within the first act where he's really, really struggling. I think the snow just kind of heightens that experience as he's trying to push the car in the snow, as an example. I don't know, Tom, how do you feel? What do you think the Christmas element added to it?
Well, firstly, there's not enough Christmas horror films or Christmas thrillers, and the weather was genuinely so brutal for the shoot. So we looked out hugely. The first day of shooting was -11, and we were just in Yorkshire as well. It wasn't like we were up in the Highlands somewhere, and it was a nightmare. And it was a blessing. Like it looked fantastic on camera, but the first day, like the entire crew were having to dig out trenches, and the cars were getting stuck. The crew van couldn't get up to where we needed to film. So it came with its challenges, but the kind of final end outcome has been really fantastic as a result. And I think what we got to do was there's a really nice juxtaposition when you are doing something. The film's obviously very dark. It's got sinister moments. It's quite bleak to some extent as well. But I like to think there's a bit more to it than perhaps what it looks like. And there's a really nice juxtaposition in having this at Christmas, where we all associate Christmas with being such a happy time for everyone, and people love Christmas, and we're celebrating, and you're with family and friends. And it was also really fun. So I worked really close with Teresa Barlow, who was our composer, and I kind of said to her, I kind of want two versions of each of these songs that we're going to use in the score. I'd like a really sinister version of a Christmas classic, and then one that's just kind of fairly subtle in terms of the dark undertones that are coming through. And it's amazing how easy it is to turn Christmas classics into really dark songs. And so the score that she did was fantastic. And then the elements where we don't bring the score through, I think the weather is like an additional character. Like it hits so hard, and the sound design, you really feel it when you watch it. Like it just feels uncomfortable. And everything kind of, at least the intention was everything sort of comes together just to create this overwhelming sense of don't kind of like what I'm watching, but I want to still watch it.
There's that eeriness as well, I think, about Christmas Eve because everybody is, indoors or, visiting parties or whatever. There is that the streets, if you step outside your front door on Christmas Eve, there is that eerie quietness. So I guess that also really sort of like helps feed into this because obviously these two characters are, trapped in this car together, and it's not like, there's any chance for help because, it's Christmas Eve and everybody's, doing other things.
Yeah, we I think we kind of allude to that as well when she says that it's Christmas Eve, we can't do that, and he says, "Well, exactly, everybody's too busy, feeding Rudolph and Father Christmas and wrapping all the presents to worry about what we're doing." So I agree completely. It's that one night of the year where we are all kind of lost in the moment, and the following day. So yeah,
And you can't imagine anything bad could happen there and then at Christmas Eve, So
Yeah. And like I said, the film takes place, over Christmas Eve night, primarily within the confines of a car. You've mentioned obviously the weather, but how was the shoot in terms of the logistics of, nighttime and inside a car?
I mean, it was definitely challenging. We had an 8-day schedule, which is pretty ridiculous for a feature film. We then had to do an additional two pickup days, and then on top of that, another two pickup days. So it was really 12 days in total, which is still a pretty short shoot. We had, I think it was around 9 pages a day we had to get through. So I mean, I did so much pre-work, which James was obviously helped with that as well, and but particularly myself and my DOP Owen, we it's the amount of work that we had to do in terms of like prepping everything in advance because we knew we had basically maybe sometimes just two takes of a shot because there was that much to get through, and so then that kind of extended to the actors as well. We did a lot of rehearsing, and thankfully they were so strong in it that they could just rattle through the entire scenes and not make a single mistake, and actually they would nail the take in almost in one go, and it was unbelievably helpful for when you're trying to get through so much material in such a short space of time. So the scheduling was sort of against us, but we tried to do the work in advance to make sure we could get through it. And then, like I say, what I mentioned before, the weather obviously didn't help. It was sort of challenging in terms of helping us stick to that schedule, but it was worth it for kind of the footage that we were able to capture as a result of that. And I think overall, though, it went surprisingly well considering. And I mean, I've so far, so much so that I would do it all again. And I very rarely say that after a shoot. So yeah, I mean, it was definitely like an enjoyable experience. And even though we were working till obviously shooting in January, so it goes dark early, we could start turning over from like 5 p.m. So we'd usually be done and wrapped by sort of, 1 a.m., then home back in bed anywhere between 2 and 3. It wasn't that bad. It could be worse. So I mean, I don't know whether this helped or not, but one thing I was trying to do to cheer the crew up was, I was like, think about it. When else would you get to be in the middle of a road in Stocksbridge at 2 a.m. doing this in a snowstorm? I was like, we're so lucky. And I think people thought I was just taking the piss, but I was actually being serious.
I do think one of the big things that we say about on our productions is everyone we like to have fun as well, though, and hopefully that kind of transcended and trickled down through the crew. It was a really fun shoot. People like Levi Eaton, actually, who plays Marie in the film, she's a lot of fun as well. And a lot of people cracking jokes. It was a very fun shoot, despite it being -10, like you say, in the middle of home Firth and Sheffield. Yeah.
And I'm guessing, for the actors, they needed you know, that release because this is so tense. I imagine that if the vibe on set was similarly tense, that would be a lot for them because they would must have, been taking the characters home. So having that thing where, it's cut and then they can be laughing and joking before they have to go in because, this is a woman that's kind of being held hostage by this man. It's not a pleasant situation.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And Richard, sorry,
such a
sorry,
great film.
Richard Galloway who plays Alan. He's the nicest person. He's so sweet, and he's playing this awful person in the film as well. So I think that release once you call cut, and then they're like best friends again. Suddenly, it's yeah, fascinating to watch. Sorry, brother.
No, I just think it's so important. I think I say this all the time with every single like film we do. It's having good etiquette on set and everybody getting on and it being like a safe space, but also a really fun space. Because ultimately you're all trying to work towards the same goal. You're trying to make a really good film. And if one department falls down, usually the film falls down. So everybody has to kind of, put in a serious amount of effort. And with that, you want to at least know that they're having a good time. So they're happy to put in the effort. They believe in what they're doing and they care about the film. And so we kind of pride ourselves on trying to make it, even though it's going to be hard work, we try and make it a really enjoyable experience. And I think we tend to work with the same people all the time, so hopefully other people agree and think the same.
Cool. And I guess, my final question, your Fright Fest attendees at the moment, they're buying tickets, they're deciding what they're watching when. Why do you each hope that they take a chance on this film?
I think it's a lot of fun, despite what we've just said about it being seeming quite bleak. It is a lot of fun, and there is some hope within the film as well. So, set at Christmas, who doesn't love, a good Christmas film? It's a lot of fun in real time. I think Fright Fest described it as a roller coaster of a film, and I think I would agree in that assessment. So, yeah, we'd love to see people down there on Saturday evening. At the Discovery One screen for the film. Yeah, come say hi to us as well. We will be there the entire festival, and like I've said, we'd love to meet as many people as possible, mingle and chat movies.
And I think just to add to that, if you obviously, personally, from my perspective, I try to make a film that I would obviously want to watch myself. And if you're a fan of genre films, if you're a fan of being taken on a little bit of a roller coaster, as Fright Fest have described it, and also feeling really uncomfortable throughout that, but in a irresistible sort of way, and and just being entertained for 80 minutes, then it's absolutely the film for you.
Well, thank you guys for your time and best of luck with the screening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kat. Thank you.